Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the virtual Perez Art Museum, Miami. My name is Marie Vickles, and I'm the Director of Education. Tonight, we are presenting the online version of our Local Views at PAMM program with artist Dinorah de Jesús Rodriguez. Our virtual Local Views program is presented with the generous support from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation and features Miami-based artists sharing their practice and discussing works of art from PAMM's exhibition programs that connect in various ways to their own work. As a 21st century museum dedicated to representing the people and communities of South Florida, the Perez Art Museum Miami continues to strive to be a forum for open, honest, and at times challenging dialogue while creating understanding through the power of art. Tonight, I am so happy to present our very own Dinorah de Jesús Rodriguez, a Miami-based artist whose work and artistic practice captures the ephemeral and precious moments of our intimate lives. Before I introduce Dinorah, I would like to acknowledge and thank the incredible team of people that work so very hard to make these programs come together online. Thank you to Anita Bram, Associate Director of Adult Programs and Audience Engagement, Alan Mueller, Membership Manager, and our world-class AV team, Denise Faxis and Andrew Bird. We could not do this without you. Thank you all. Let's get started. Dinorah de Jesús Rodriguez is a film and video artist working with handcrafted 16mm film, video installation, media design for stage performance and site-specific public interventions. Her work has been exhibited internationally in film festivals, museums, galleries, TV, art house theaters, onstage collaborations, and virtual as well as physical public spaces. Most recently, her work was showcased at the 2019 Havana International Film Festival and the 2019 Havana Biennial. Dinorah studied filmmaking with visionary experimentalists such as Barbara Hammer, Trin T. Minha, Rob Nilsson, and the late Warren Sonbert and Marlon Riggs. She received a BA in film production from San Francisco State University School of Creative Arts and has also been awarded numerous fellowships, commissions, prizes, grants, and residencies in support of her experimental work from organizations that include the National Performance Network, Theater Communications Group, the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, Funding Arts Network, Arts and Bangladesh, Fundación Valparaíso in Spain, the Florida Division of Cultural Affairs, Atlantic Center for the Arts, Gentile Artist Residency Program, Visual Studies Workshop, Tiger Tail Productions, Miami Light Project, San Francisco Festival 2000, and the Miami-Dade County Cultural Affairs Department, among others. Here in Miami, she's also a dedicated arts educator working with Brick by Brick, the award-winning outreach education program at the Perez Art Museum, Miami. As you watch along this evening on Facebook or YouTube Live, please post questions for Dinorah in the comments section. She will try to answer as many as possible in the Q&A portion of this evening's presentation. And remember, if you value this and other programs presented by the museum, please consider supporting us by going to pam.org/donate. So with that said, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dinorah de Jesús Rodriguez.
Thank you so much, Marie. Thank you, Anita, Denise, Andrew, the whole team that's making this evening possible. And thank you to everyone who is joining us. I want to open my presentation by talking a little bit about a piece that rocked my world recently at PAMM, and that was this installation by Ebony G. Patterson. It was called While the Dew is Still on the Roses. And I was moved by the fact that Ebony was working with so many of the same elements that I work with in my film, foliage, excessive foliage and plants, both living and fake. The glass orbs, there's so much stuff in her work that resonates with mine, including also her use of just appropriation, the references to Caribbean folklore. I felt so at home in that installation that I just remember spending hours and hours there, because it did speak so much to my own work. So I'd like to introduce you tonight to some of my work, and I'm going to start with the first piece I'm going to show you is Sonambula. This is a video you're going to watch in its entirety. And I selected this as the opening piece because this is really emblematic of the work that I do. It's a piece that contains pretty much all my signature techniques where I'm writing, scratching, drawing, and coloring on the celluloid. In this case, I'm working with found footage. I think there's not much to say. I want you to look at the work and see if you have any questions for me at the end of it, but just sit back and enjoy Sonambula. I think you're going to recognize some of the stars in this film. So you can see that as a storyteller, I don't think linearly. I do tell stories in my films, although some of my films are just absolute abstractions. But in many cases, I am telling a story, and in some cases, what I do is I employ collaborators to help me tell the story, and that's the case in the next piece that I'm going to show you, which is a piece from 2016 called "Gods Always Behave Like the People Who Make Them." This piece is a tribute to writer Zora Neale Hurston, and I engaged two collaborators, Shanika Harrell, who's a choreographer and dancer, and Sister Whirlwind, a composer and musician, to help me tell a story about Zora. And the story that I wanted to tell about Zora, because there's so many to tell, but the one that I felt connected to was the story of Zora's lifelong yearning to return to her home, to come back to the South. So I made the film and I presented it as an installation in which I collected like scraps of the swamp from Central Florida. The installation was presented at the University of Central Florida in Orlando, so very near to her hometown of Eatonville. So I spent a lot of time in the swamp there around Eatonville and just collected things like Spanish moss and seashells and rocks and things from the swamp and created an installation with it. And again, like Ebony, I used quite a bit of glass and orbs and lenses and things that distort the image because of the nature of glass and rounded glass in particular. So it was a piece in which I was expressing my own need, my own desire to return to my home in the global South, which is Cuba. And that was the point of connection for me with Zora. So without further ado, I'd like you to have a look at Gods Always Behave Like the People Who Make Them, with the installation that it was presented with as an introduction.
I got that old black gal is a spiking song that I got down there in Miami and was sung by Max Ford, the singing line on this construction crew. Used for spiking down the rails. That old black gal keep on grumbling. New pair of shoes, Lord, a new pair of shoes. This one, some of them call it po' boy and some of them call it po' gal, but it's a pretty well distributed blues tune all over the South. The words are not rhymed. It's the typical Negro pattern, the same line repeated 3 times with a sort of flip line on the end, and the change is in the tune rather than in the words for the most part.
Where did you pick up the way you sing?
I've known that all my life.
Mama told me to jump at the sun. If I never reach, well, at least I begun to take flight, journey of my soul in its late nights. A colored girl, so you born into the hate, right? Written flowers, the voices of my people in these rain showers. See, once you awake in the thoughts of a man, you can never put him asleep again. Now I've learned to speak with the wind, journaling my people, so I speak with my pen. My granny was a slave, so with each and every step I have learned to be brave. But now I am a free woman, educated in this world just to be woman. Searching for the love, just this journey in this life and a God above. Their eyes are watching God. We dance up through the fire when life gets hard. And even though we struggle, push through it all. You know their eyes are watching God. They seem to stare in the darkness, but their eyes is watching God. I can see it in their heart through the vision in these words. I just came to leave my mom, paint the perfect picture like I'm living art, breathing every flower as the bees apart, from the mines to the cotton fields. Whoever knew that we can make it this far? But it was written in the stars. And so we thank you for all your written memoirs. And even though sometimes we still struggle, because of you we can push through our troubles. You said no man can make another free. With our freedom, it lives within me. Push through the journey, and now I've learned to only seek God within me. Their eyes are watching God. We dance up through the fire when life gets hard. And even though we struggle, push through it all. You know their eyes are what you got.
I heard Halifax down on the East Coast. I don't remember. I was in a big crowd, and I learned it in the evening during the crowd, and don't exactly remember who did teach it to me, but I learned it from the crowd most exactly, more from one. You gotta go there, just to know there. I'll bring you back.
Black girl in this racist world, but I am not tragically colored. Paint the perfect picture like it's vivid colors. Document the culture, they was meant to love us. All my brothers working in the coal mines. I learn your songs, and I can feel your struggles. So you don't know your future till you know your past. What I know is the love of my people, and we was meant to last. A writer and an anthropologist, but educated to this world. Seek truth, let the knowledge live. See, no matter how far I go, I always came back to what I know. Never let the ones tell me how far I go. Sun, moon, and stars, so we stay afloat. Written memoirs like a music note. Paint the vivid picture, living every quote.
This will bring you back. 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 You gotta go there, just to know there. I'll bring you back.
Black seed stolen from the hand of the crate. The blind lead the blind, what's the vision in the fate? The one-eyed monster got you eating off his plate. Just when you think it's over, you might can't escape. Handcuffed, but these shackles I must break. Take the wicked, turn them good, I know you can't relate. Cause you think no one can see you, but I can see your face. You think no one can see you, but God is in a place. So I bring it back, like I'm picking cotton. And I bring it back, like it's so forgotten. Dance upon the shoulders of all the brothers, reaching for the stars, like sword taught us. See, home is where the heart is. Gotta bring it all back to where it started.
This will bring you back. 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 Oh, gal, long ways from home. Oh, gal, long ways from home. Oh, gal, long ways from home.
So you can see that I'm working a lot with plants, live plants in God's Always Behave. And I also used in that installation some tiny slides of photographs of people that were members of the Eatonville community while Zora was growing up. And that piece was kind of an outgrowth of this other piece that I had done in Hawaii in 2014, which is called Migrants Negrantes. And here I really laid into the use of living plants as my primary material and subject matter, in addition to moving image, which is always going to be present somehow, some way in the work. So this installation is a little bit complicated. It takes place in a shipping container. In this particular iteration, it took place in a shipping container in Oahu, Honolulu. And the piece explores the concept of fauna and flora as migrants. So not only are humans migrants, but plants are also migrants. When you get to Hawaii, you're going to see all the same plants that you're seeing here in Miami, the same plants that I see in Havana and in Puerto Rico and in Brazil and everywhere I go, which says to me that not only are we humans migrants who end up all over the place, but plants are also. So migration is really just a fact of living. And that was really what I wanted to go at in this installation. But the installation has a lot of elements to it. It's like a botanical laboratory in which I am attempting to root cuttings of plants in this shipping container as a sort of exploration of what does it take to grow new roots in a transient environment or in a new environment. And the installation was open to the public. It ran for 5 weeks, and during the whole 5 weeks, I had visitors and I had public in there the whole time. So people were all up in my face while I was working and asking questions, and moms with baby carriages asking, what is installation? All of that. It was very, very exciting to work in that way in view of the public. This is an installation that I'd love to do in Miami, and I'm hoping to do it soon. So I think before I get too chatty and tell you too much more about it, I'd like you to have a look at it. And you're going to see a video of some of the process as well as the closing exhibition of the piece. So take it away, Andrew. Figure out how to make the edges very smooth.
That's nice.
And it's much easier to photograph once you don't have that light background,
From Hawaii. Okay, so I want to acknowledge artist Herman Gonzalez, who made those beautiful kinetic sculptures, the little casitas, those little houses that you saw in that last video. And now we're going to lead into another video of two more installation works. The first one is called And Still We Dance, and you're looking at a slide of the Miami presentation of this installation. It was presented in Miami at Centro Cultural Español, and it was also presented at Centro del Desarrollo de las Artes Visuales in Havana. The video you're going to see is of the Havana installation, and the slides are of the Miami installation. This is a piece that grew out of another installation I did called Mujercita Mía, which was about rape and sexual assault, in which I interviewed 13 women in Miami about their experiences with assault. And the visuals are interpreted by two dancers, Lucia Arataña and Niurka Marquez, collaborators that I work with frequently. After I made that piece, and the piece also had a Twitter account associated with it, because I saw what Ai Weiwei was doing with Twitter activism, and I kind of copied his idea and started a Twitter account to discuss rape and sexual assault based on that piece. But then I wanted to, as time passed, I wanted to make the piece be more about survival than about assault itself. So I created And Still We Dance. And Still We Dance includes the video from Mujercita Mia, but it surrounds the video with all these dancers that are suspended from the ceiling and are free to move with the air in the space as a sort of motive for survival, dance as a form of survival. And the other video that you're going to see, or the other installation that you're going to see in this video, is called Las Dos Aguas. And it's a very sort of whimsical little installation I did with condoms that are filled with water and a projection of the ocean on the floor. It's open to many, many, many layers of interpretation, so you can make whatever you want of it. I don't want to waste a lot more time talking. I want to let you look at the images, so go ahead and run the video.
Tenía náuseas, mareada, como que demasiado borracha, por lo poquito que yo había bebido. Pero yo no estoy pensando que me han echado una droga, claro, bastante incoherente, el efecto es rápido.
I remember waking up in the middle of the night, thinking, still like half dreaming, thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna hurl, I'm gonna throw up, and thinking in the dream, thinking, oh, I feel so sick.
I never even really yelled at me before, so it's like,
I remember opening my eyes and he's on top of me. And he is doing something like he'd never done before, which is in the middle of the night, wake up and want to have sex. Not only want to have sex, but not even lead up to it. Just like on top of me. Here we go. I hadn't even digested yet. I could literally taste. I could literally taste the beef tips with pasta, in the back of my throat. And I remember saying to him, please, no, God, babe, not right now. You're using all this terminology that you're used to using because, this is your partner. This is the person who you sleep with every night. You trust him. And I remember saying, exactly, and I want to make love with him. And I said,
and do all this stuff for you, and at least you can
yo me hubiese quitado mi ropa, ¿no? ¿Por qué amanezco vestida con solo los panties en la sala y las faldas levantadas hasta aquí?
What are you talking about all this?
Pero desnuda.
This is my apartment.
No, desnuda, con mi ropa. O sea, yo andaba como
he was going to get it because he was going to reassert himself. And that's literally what went through my head at that moment. And what I thought and what I felt. And the next thing, the next part of that, sequence for me is looking at myself from above. And just hanging on to the sheets going, okay, it's going to be over soon. Just turn your head to the side and just deal with it.
And he was like,
entonces yo le digo, pero we had sex?
So you got
y él ofendido, ¿cómo que you don't remember?
And I had just bought a toaster on the table right next to the front door. And like I was washing,
pero a mí no se me ocurre. E incluso se llevó, me dice mi hermana, los gringos y la gente que vive en el sur, muy cerca de la frontera con Texas, que las mujeres
and I looked over and tried to see up the box.
Llego a mi casa y mi hija estaba agarrada porque son las 5 de la mañana a esta altura. Eso no se
And I was just like, you just a toaster oven at my head, like my toaster oven in the box. He threw it at me. Like, he could, yeah. Been real bad for me.
Cuando yo llego a las 5, mi hija está histérica. Mami, pero ¿dónde tú estabas? Si yo texteándote y tú no me contestas, o sea, ella histérica.
Sigue haciendo, o sea, en Juárez hizo la...
En un momento yo estoy pensando otra cosa que no sea, esto es mi culpa,
me emborraché y me acosté con el tipo.
¿Comiste algo de lo que te dio? ¿O ya mejor te olvidaste?
No, yo ni recuerdo si comí, lo que él estaba preparando. No, él estaba sirviendo como una bandeja de comida. Yo ni sé.
It's not a joke. In my mind, I was like, I'm going to jail.
Él me tuvo que llevar a mi casa, pero tampoco recuerdo si fue. Okay, so moving right along, I want to quickly introduce you to the last piece I'm going to share with you tonight. This is my newest film, completed in January of this year, just before this pandemic hit us. It's a collaboration with a London-based artist named Anita Ponton, who's a writer and a performance artist. And this film has an interesting story. We shot this footage in Spain in 2010 and basically sat on it for like 10 years. And then just very recently, Anita let me know that she'd written a short story based on the footage and that she'd recorded it as a podcast. When I heard the podcast, it was like, oh my God, there's the film. So that podcast became the soundtrack to the story. So it is kind of a little bit backwards that we shot the film 10 years before we ever wrote the script for it. But without too much further ado, let me share with you. Oh, this is a 7-channel film installation. Okay, so it's a film designed to be exhibited in 7 channels, and it's 7 chapters. You can watch the chapters in any order as long as you see the last chapter at the end, because that's the one that sort of gives you the clincher to the story. The chapter that you're going to see tonight is chapter 5. So go ahead and enjoy chapter 5 of Ruinas, which is my latest work.
I sleep sometimes. When I awake, it seems like years have passed, but always my dreams are of you returning to me, of you joining me here, for good, forever. You will come soon, I can feel it. I expect the money's run out by now and your dreams will be getting darker. You won't be able to resist. Even on a still day, hot winds score the surfaces of this barren place. If they should meet, they rise up in angry gusts and furious eddies, becoming briefly the gin of the sands. Dust devils biting and rasping, dancing on the sand, tearing up everything in their wake. And they keep me company.
Okay, so now we're ready to take some of your questions, and Anita Bram is here to facilitate that. So thank you, Anita.
Thank you so much, Nora. Thank you for a really fantastic presentation and for sharing so much of your work with us. So I will take it away to the audience now. We have a lot of fans in the audience. Cornelius Moore wrote, "Greetings from San Francisco," and that it's wonderful to see you and your work after all of these years. So many shout outs from friends in the audience. And we'll go to our first question, which is actually, how has your work changed over the years in relation to changes in technology?
Oh, that's a great question. I use all the possible technologies at my disposal. So I still work in 16 millimeter film, and even in Super 8. This last film, Ruinas, is shot in Super 8. However, I have also incorporated digital video. I love effects. I love social media. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see all the little video clips that I am spouting out almost daily. I love technology. Technology is a toy for me, and I'll take all the technology I can get.
Great. I love it. You can see it definitely in your work. We have another question. I think it's, I guess, a bit deeper on that, which is from Spencer Moon, asked you to talk a little bit about footage that isn't your own and any issues you run into in relation to copyright infringement. How do you deal with that in your work?
That's also a really great question. And I do work a lot with appropriation. You know, I have to make every single frame of the film my own. So that means I work on 16 millimeter material. I don't appropriate digital material. I appropriate 16 millimeter material, and I mark upon every single frame in the film. So by marking on the frame, I change the image, and that makes it legal for me to work on. I cannot use an image that's unaltered. So when you see my 16 millimeter films and you realize that it runs at 24 frames per second, you have to think that I had to mark 24 frames per second of every scene.
Wow. Yeah. And can I ask how you do that? That's not a question. That's just an additional.
I do that using Sharpies. I use scratching tools, etching needles. My favorite tool is an awl, which is a bookmaking tool that scratches. But I just mark on the images. I take Sharpies to them.
Mm-hmm. Right. Super precise work, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very zen.
Thank you. Let's see, we have another question from Santiago Depre. She said, I imagine normalizing nomadic culture can heal this world as a whole. What are your opinions on stagnant living, settlement living, and current social norms as it pertains to global movement?
Wow, what a beautiful question, Santiago. You know, I happen to live myself between two different countries, and actually countries that don't even speak to each other. So, you know, no, I can't be stagnant. I don't think that is our nature. I think as I point out, not only are we naturally nomadic and migrational, but so are plants and animals. That's what life is. It's about movement. The planet is round. We're meant to go all around it.
Right. I entirely agree.
I wish I could delve more deeply into that question, but one day Santiago and I will sit and have coffee and talk about this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I guess on that same lifestyle note, perhaps this question is overdone, but we're still interested to hear how quarantine and the pandemic and this different time we're in has changed your work or what you've been working on during it.
I was fortunate to be in a collaboration with Karen Peterson and dancers who were celebrating their 30th anniversary virtually. So I created a series of videos for them for that celebration. I also have 2 videos that I've submitted to Screen Dance Miami. Maybe one of them will end up at PAMM. And so I've been working on, getting work into festivals and stuff, but really the collaboration with Karen Peterson and dancers kind of pulled me through this because it gave me creative work to do throughout the pandemic.
Right, absolutely. Which is what we all need, is some way to still collaborate and be together even while being apart. Absolutely.
And we were addressing the issue of isolation in the work, so it was really cathartic in that way.
Right, right, and super poignant for the times. I think that's actually it for questions from the audience. So thank you so much again for your time and responses and sharing your amazing work with us. We can't wait to look into more of it in the years to come. So thank you so much, Dinorah, again.
Thank you so much, Anita. Thank you, Marie. Thank all of you. And thank you, Pam, for being just an amazing community resource.
Thank you.